So what do I do at the identify stage? What do I do in the plan stage? Things are ever changing. Nothing's ever the same as what I've learned. These are sort of just the more routine tasks that I've found myself doing throughout the software development lifecycle. Hey friends, welcome back to another video. So in the past, before I became a product manager, really, I was doing a lot of Googling around what a product manager is, what a product manager does. And I know that's a question that comes up quite a bit as well in my comments section. So for today, I'm not going to answer the question of what a product manager is just quite yet, because I haven't found a good way to define it that I feel like represents all the PMs I've met with, worked with, or even myself right now. I'm still trying to figure it out. But what I do want to do is answer the question of, what does a product manager do? What on earth am I doing when I'm sitting at my desk working remotely? What am I doing from at work? So less high level of what a product manager does, but more the nitty gritty, quite literally what I'm doing day to day, what tasks those are, and what all that looks like. Before I dive into all that though, I do want to preface, I am not at all speaking on behalf of any PMs. This is simply from my experience itself and just a little bit of context on who I am. I started a little over a year ago as an entry-level PM right out of college, and I am what I would call a feature-level PM. So I I use that term very loosely, a handful of features in my own kind of little focused area on the product itself. And you can think of a feature level PM as a product manager for features as small as, say, a new setting, or something as large as group discovery on Facebook. That's what I would define as feature level PM, and that's how I would sort of define myself currently in that role. I also on the side work on a couple other less feature PM things, but for today's focus, I just wanted to talk about my experience as a feature level PM now that I've been in the role for a bit over a year now. And I've actually recently changed roles to become more of a platform PM, so we'll save that for another video once I figure out what on earth it is I'm doing. To organize this in some way, I am going to go ahead and use the software development lifecycle as defined by Stackify in order to organize what tasks they are, because all these features run on different timelines. So usually it's the software development lifecycle kind of running in parallel at different paces, at different parts in the lifecycle itself, and they all kind of just stack onto one another, and that's really what makes up my workday. But today I'm going to keep it simple, break it down into just one software development lifecycle and run through exactly what it is that I'm doing during that time. Also note that I'm not usually the only one doing these things. I'm working with design, engineering, research, the rest of the team to make these things happen at every stage of the software development lifecycle. Let me start by defining what the software development lifecycle is, and this is according to Stackify. There are 6 stages of the software development lifecycle. They are identify, plan, design, build, test, deploy, and maintain. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into what on earth it is I do in each of these phases. Let's go. So what do I do at the identify stage? During the identify stage, I'm usually working with the team to identify some sort of gap, some sort of user problem, some sort of opportunity to improve the product itself. And this can manifest in a variety of ways. It can come from feedback, direct verbatim feedback from users. It can come from a drop in metrics. It can come from other features coming in, industry trends. It can come from feedback from my immediate team, ideas that they might have. It can come in from direction from leadership. So a variety of ways kind of start this identify phase. What do I do in the plan stage? How much is done here really depends on the complexity of the gap or problem itself. It can, result in driving research, so whether that might be my own or working with user research in order to make a whole separate project happen. We can do some design exploration. We can set up time to talk with customers, time to talk with other teams about what they've done. We'll run this initial thinking by higher ups and our immediate team. We might do some design sprints or team brainstorms around it. And this phase is when I usually start throwing together a spec or some sort of presentation or doc in order to run by the leadership team and the rest of the team later on. What do I do in the design stage? In this stage, I'm working really closely with designers. So we're usually going back and forth, having regular syncs with the designers, giving them feedback, doing some sort of brainstorms around it, whether that be sprints or just casual conversations discussing the design at hand, sharing that out with the immediate team. And when we get to a point, we might even share it out with the larger design team, share it out with the leadership team, get more and more feedback from the team itself. And depending once again on the complexity of it, we might even pull in user research, start running the designs and whatnot, the prototypes by customers, getting their feedback. And during this stage, I usually work with our copywriters to start getting copy for these final designs as well. What do I do in the build phase? So by the time of the build phase, I would hope that I would have the spec ready enough in terms of that background context, what exactly the requirements are, the functional requirements, the metrics needed, and of course the designs themselves are usually finalized by this point. And we'll have some sort of kickoff with the feature crew that's working on it, giving everyone context on what exactly the user gap is, what user needs that this is trying to solve, run them through the functional requirements, run them through the design as well, and then make sure that we're all aligned on exactly what needs to be delivered. And we'll start building out stories on Azure DevOps, which is the tool we use in order to track all this progress. And we'll start building out these sort of bite-sized milestones to know when we need to check in. And all throughout this, we have our daily stand-ups, we have our sprint plannings, where I'll actively be listening to and giving updates and whatnot, making sure that we're keeping engineering unblocked. And sprint planning, we'll dive into those user stories and figure out what's needed there as well. And of course, lots of demoing to the rest of the team to show progress. What do I do in the test phase? So I think of the test phase as a pretty long one, being that it can start when we're not even code complete yet. So bug bashes on our way to being code complete, and we'll have this with the immediate team. We'll move on to then having some sort of testing / feedback phase with the leadership team itself. We might even have testing with customers. We might run some sort of private preview. Once we get closer to code complete, we'll also then start rolling it out to the further team and also maybe our company if we feel like it's at that stage for more and more feedback. This stage is really about testing all the edge cases. So the bug bashes, I'll be the one to write up the doc for in terms of like what specific straightforward cases there are to test, what edge cases there are to test, an area for leadership to give feedback as well, the immediate team to give feedback. The bug bashes are a great way to get to that stage of understanding what needs to be prioritized in order to be ready to roll out to the team, to the company, and then to our customers. And that to our customers really can come through the form of private previews, one-on-one demos with our customers, or it can be A/B tests, depending, we'll work closely with the analytics team to see what we need there, whether that be an A/B test, an ABC test, ABCD test, and how long that needs to be run for and with how many customers. And of course, this is all to make sure that we're still following those success metrics that we had set up initially. What do I do during the deploy phase? The deploy phase is quite a fun one because at this point you're doing a lot of communications to the admins of the product at other companies that use our product, and also communications to our end users, whether that be updating old existing documentation or creating new documentation to point them to it. But you're usually trying to build a lot of excitement and getting people to try out this new feature and give you feedback. So we'll work with the marketing team quite closely to make sure that we're able to communicate this change out to everyone. And of course, while we're deploying, we're trying to do it safely, so we'll follow some sort of rollout plan, watch our success metrics, watch our regular metrics very, very closely with the analytics team, and just really keep an eye out for feedback and make sure everything's going okay. What do I do in the maintain phase? The maintain phase to me is pretty similar to the deploy phase. You're once again just really keeping a close eye on the metrics themselves, the feedback itself, making sure that everything's going okay. We usually give a bake time of maybe 1 or 2 months before, that's kind of the phase when all the feedback is likely coming in. If there are any issues to be found, they're usually found within the first few months of a new feature being deployed. And we just stay alert on the feature itself. By this point, honestly, with all the feedback we've gotten from private preview and the immediate team and customers and whatnot, we'll have a good sense of whether or not we'll be iterating further on the product itself. So the maintain phase is likely us already starting to plan towards the next iteration if there is one. I've kept it quite simple in terms of breaking down what it exactly is that I'm doing in these phases themselves, but to be honest, there's a lot going on throughout all this. Usually I'm also juggling other features that are at different points in the software development lifecycle. We're also constantly looking out across the org, across industry trends to see if there's any sort of need for change within the software development lifecycle. And once again, this is very much just a look into what on earth I'm doing behind my computer screen all day. It very much varies, right? Nothing's going to be defined for you as a product manager. There's no clear structure. You kind of just have to be flexible with whatever comes your way, whether that be a differing opinion or a strategic shift. At the end of the day, you just want your team, your product to be successful, and so you'll make do with the changes that come your way to make that happen. All right, and so that's what I do as a product manager, at least what I've done in this past year as a new grad feature product manager. And something new I'd like to start doing in my videos is actually answering your questions in the comments. So please leave questions in the comments if you'd like to be the next comment that gets answered. So Connor said, love your setup. I'm currently a PM intern at a company in Silicon Valley. Do you have any tips for interns? This is a great question. I honestly feel like I could do a whole separate video on this just because I've had 3 prior internships and I feel like I've learned a lot from each one of them. I think my tips in short would be to take full advantage of every opportunity that comes your way. Not only the ones that are sort of handed to you by recruiters or by your manager, like, hey, go to this event or whatnot. But if someone casually mentions, like, speak to so-and-so, actually go follow through and do it. Meet as much of the team as possible at that company that you're working at. Meet a lot of people in different roles. Try to diversify the people that you're speaking with because it'll give you a better sense of what other roles there are, how the team actually works together as a whole, the company culture there and whatnot. And that to me was the most important part in deciding where I wanted to work full-time was, how am I actually gonna like working with this team, with this company as a whole? And it's a bit hard to do that if you stay within the silo of your own immediate team. So definitely try to take full advantage of meeting as many people as possible, go to as many events as possible. Don't be afraid to ask anyone to have a conversation. I personally, sorry, I don't wanna speak on behalf of everyone, I love chatting with interns. I think it's so much fun to have someone come in with a different perspective, to hear what they have to say, and of course to answer any questions that they might have to give them a better sense of what it would be like to work there full time. So that is all for my video today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was able to help you understand a little bit better what it is that a product manager does, at least what I did as a product manager this past year, because once again, things are ever changing. Nothing's ever the same as what I've learned. These are sort of just the more routine tasks that I've found myself doing throughout the software development lifecycle. Everything else just comes up as it comes up and you tackle them as they come. So thank you guys so much for watching and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.